So let's go to Ariel Helwani standing by to give us all the information. Ariel, what's up, man? This was supposed to be your day off. Now here you are having to work.
No days off in this business, guys. And thank you for saying that, Rick, because I was just about to get all, in my feelings. It's not postponed, it's canceled. In fact, I was just having that conversation with Frank and Andy before we came on, how that's a pet peeve of mine. Is it happening on May 24th and 25th? No. So that means it's canceled. And yes, they have canceled their first two events, the GFL, that is. I was hearing some whispers about this early portion of the week. Reached out to Andy Foster of the California State Athletic Commission, and it's worth repeating the gold standard. And why do I say this? Because when I found out that they were going to hold their first two events in California, I did reach out to Andy, and he was very, very honest and forthright about his concerns and told me about the steps that he was making them go through in order for him to feel comfortable, give them the okay, and allow this to proceed. And unfortunately, his concerns kind of, they all kind of came to roost over the last couple of days. And it's a very unfortunate situation. I say unfortunate for the fighters. A lot of these fighters, tail end of their careers, looking for that one last payday. But let's be honest, a lot of us saw this coming. And so where do we stand right now? Right now, those events that were scheduled for the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles on the campus of the University of Southern California. There's two USCs out there, so it's confusing. There's the Trojans, there's the Gamecocks. Anyway, those events aren't happening. And there was 31 fights scheduled for those 2 days. Those fights aren't happening. Now, I did have a text conversation with Darren Owen, the founder of the GFL, who told me that, they're not dead. They're hoping to find a solution to all of this. In fact, this is his exact quote: "Working on a solution. My main investor didn't fulfill his April obligation, which has caused a problem. I'll keep you posted, but I believe we will be able to work through it. I think we can make it happen for June." He did add, additionally, I don't foresee the event taking place in California. That would be the June event. Now, we also know that there was a couple of June events scheduled for New York, Long Island, UBS Arena. But we absolutely, he added, will keep pushing forward. He said that he thinks that he's going to have to push that June 15th, 16th weekend, and that he will be confirming that as soon as possible. He said it's been frustrating. It's been a frustrating week, but I think there's a solution in place. So we shall see. I will add that there isn't a lot of optimism, and there's a lot of people who are kind of just moving on. If something materializes, great, but I think a lot of the fighters and managers that I spoke to think that this was a never was. And so I do think it is important to bring up 2 points. We here on the program, dating back to the first time we had Darren Owen on, I believe in December of 21, we have covered this saga, if you will. But I want people to understand, it's crazy that I do have to say this, that covering a story is not endorsing a story. We cover the good, the bad, the ugly of all combat sports, and in particular, mixed martial arts. And I bring this up because I have seen some jabronis out there try to say oh, you led the fighters astray. Oh, you endorsed this. This is all your fault. And so I will say, the next time Darren Owen resurfaced, which was in December of 2024, or maybe late November, whenever they made that, announcement, the vast majority, I would say 90% of the fighters were already signed. So there was a 3-year gap between conversations. We never talked about this. They were already signed. Woodley was getting paid. Pettis was getting paid. Kevin Lee was getting paid. These guys were already on retainers. They were on monthly salaries. We had nothing to do with that. It's absolutely ludicrous. No one asked me about anything. I didn't steer anyone in this direction. And in fact, there was one manager that had 2 offers on the table. I won't say who it was, and I won't say who the fighter was. They asked me what I thought of the 2 offers. I told them to go in the opposite direction because I did not have high hopes for this. I think we talked on the show, guys. What did we say? We'll set the line at 1.5. And we were kind of wondering if they would even make it to that 1. And so you can sit here and listen to me tell you, hey, we had nothing to do with this. I can't even believe that the conversation has to go in this direction, but I feel that it's being thrown in my face enough to where we have to respond. Don't listen to me tell you this now. Go back to January when I was going off on the PFL and when I was going off on GFL, and I said, and I quote, "This is dead on arrival." That's DOA. This is in January before the draft. Don't believe me? Take a look.
Season format sucks. Standings suck. Points suck. Convoluted. No one cares. Now do me this one favor. Get rid of the belt. Make Usman Nurmagomedov versus Paul Hughes for the PFL lightweight title. Why are you holding on to Bellator? It means nothing. No one cares. I see some people doing the Vince McMahon meme crying. You did not care. No one cares. Get rid of it. Toss it in the bin. It's done. It's dead. No one cares. Call it the PFL title. Make all those champions PFL champions. You're welcome for the advice. And move on already. And a word to the GFL, get rid of your format too, because you're dead on arrival. I'm sorry, but I'm tired of all these ridiculous formats. Just make the fights. Make the best fights. Make the most interesting fights. Make the juiciest fights. Make the best rivalries into fights. That's it. It's not that hard. That's it. Look at what the UFC is doing. It boggles my mind. Look at what they're doing. You have to have a different product. I get it. You have to provide some kind of alternative. I get it. But if they are doing something great, you don't have to reinvent the wheel because the audience has told you already that this is what they want. From press conferences to matchmaking to fights, just put on the best fights possible. That's it. Nothing else. No one's getting invested in any type of gimmick, any type of format. That is it.
Yeah, and so the format was the problem and the finances were the problem as well. I see Campbell McLaren. Campbell McLaren is a very old, bitter, crusty man who thinks that he deserves a lot of credit for the launch of the UFC. He was there in the early days, but it was Bob Meyerowitz and the Gracie family that started the UFC. And he has an outfit called Combate Global. And he said to me, you're at fault for this because one of my fighters left me to go sign with the dream that is GFL. I don't even know who this person is, if I'm being 100% honest with you. You don't cover us. You covered them. You covering them is an endorsement. And so I go back to something that I said just seconds ago. We cover the good, the bad, the ugly of combat sports. Campbell, we don't cover the irrelevant, all right? And I'm sorry, it ain't relevant to talk about your outfit. And I know you tried to be my best friend on text message and you have a different tone publicly because it's cool to sometimes take a shot at the king. I understand that. But the GFL signing some of the biggest names in the history of the sport to ludicrous contracts that seemed very far-fetched was always going to be, as I said in that clip and many other times, dead on arrival. It's a sad, unfortunate story. It ain't the first time a promotion will come and go. We covered Affliction, we covered Elite XC, IFL, Strikeforce, many others, and unfortunately, it won't be the last time.
Yeah, so a lot to unpack there. I'm going to throw this question out. Maybe this is not asking you for an insight that you have through these conversations, but more just for conversation, for general thought. Number one, the two things that came to mind for me. For number one, when Darren Owen says that they're working on a solution, in your mind, and based on that conversation, what does a solution look like? Is it just an investment? Is it an investment from that same person? What does this solution look like that does get them to June?
I think it's funds. But I think he's, quite frankly, he's trying to stay afloat. Like, I'm doing the thing that you do in the water when you're trying to doggy paddle. Like, that's what he's trying to do. And it was too far fetched. You can't sign that many fighters to these massive deals when they're on the back nine. And again, my heart goes out to the fighters because who wouldn't want to believe in this? Who wouldn't want to sign up for this? All these fighters deserve all that and then some. I get it. But you have to build small. You have to work your way up. We've talked about the Strikeforce model back in the day. We've talked about, doing things the right way. It can't just be about these, big names and overpaying these guys. And you have to be strategic about overpaying this guy, that guy. But, there's a greater story here as well. Like, I think, could they get one? Maybe. But, like, honestly, that would be shocking to me at this point. To me, it's a story that has come and gone, the GFL, that is.
What would one?
And then there's the greater story.
Are you saying one event or one investment?
He just wants to survive. Like, he just wants to. This is his reputation. Who knows if he can work in combat sports again? And this is a guy who has worked in combat sports for many years. Had World Series of Fighting Canada and had a Canadian promotion and all this stuff. The bigger question is the state of the MMA business. We know what the MMA business is. It's the UFC. They are the top dog. But the MMA business has always had a 2, 3, 4, and 5. That does not exist. PFL isn't paying as much as they once did. The Bellator number 2 brand doesn't exist. One isn't paying nearly as much for MMA fighters. GFL was that hope. It doesn't exist. And that's not good for the business. It's the reason why I say AEW is great for pro wrestling, because they give guys opportunity and girls opportunities to make money. You need that for a healthy combat sports landscape. Boxing has that to a degree with many different suitors and more to come. So that to me is honestly the bigger story here. This was like the Trojan horse, if you will. It was an unbelievable Trojan horse in the sense that it didn't seem real. And here we go. Canceled May 24th and 25th. Doesn't look like 15th and 16th. Who knows what's to come. But I could tell you most of the fighters, if not all of the fighters that I spoke to and managers, don't believe that this is going to come around.
And they just will see signed contracts, they'll see $0 from this. It will essentially just be nothing but a waste of their time.
Actually, there are some lucky ones who got signing bonuses, who got monthly salaries. There are some people who made off quite well without having to do anything.
Are there fighters that could take legal action against GFL for not seeing through their contract?
I had a lawyer reach out to me who's a big MMA fan who brought up that exact point. It's a great question. Who said, if a fighter can prove that he turned down a deal to go this route, there's a potential route there. I'm not advocating for that. I'm not suggesting anyone do that. But he brought this up to me. He's like, look, this isn't as easy as just, hey, we're canceling the event. Sorry, everyone, go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but and it
could get dicey.
It's even further muddled by the fact that they're calling it a postponement, right? Because they can say to you, no, we're going to pay you, but it's going to be at this future event that may or may not even happen. And B, unless I'm mistaken, they were not under exclusive deals, right? So it would be hard to say you were unable to do X because of Y when there was no exclusivity, right? They're able to compete for other promotions and then do that.
I did hear from some promoters who felt like this dream was being fed to fighters. The salaries or the purses were so inflated that they were starting to feel like the marketplace outside of the UFC was getting very difficult to navigate because everyone was like, I'll just take this better deal from the GFL, when a lot of these promoters were feeling like that isn't going to come to fruition. You're making a mistake.
Yeah, it's fantasy dollars. It's monopoly money.
Yeah, essentially that's what I told this one person. That was my sense of the situation. And now they have to live with those actions.
Okay, one more question for you. Again, just for conversation. I don't know if you'll necessarily have a specific piece of reporting on this, but to the point GC asked when you said they're trying to get one event done, what's the point of one event? And then even beyond that, what was the point from an investor or from Darren's perspective in investing in this and then pulling the plug, right? You've now spent all the money that you've said that some people made off pretty well.
Right, like you made it this far. You got the poster out. You got the event booked. You got the fighters booked. You had everything ready to go. How did it trip up at the very last minute?
Speaking of the poster, you brought this up. The real winner in all of this is the Cage Warriors admin, who is just spiking the football.
I mean, they were in a beef like a month ago, and now.
I mean, it's a 10-6 for the Cage Warriors. I mean,
that's a dream day as a social media admin. Imagine waking up over in Europe and you're just like, wait, what happened to the GFL?
Yeah,
and you just get
well done to that guy
tweets.
or girl or whomever that is. Well done to them. I just think they had an investor, and look, yeah, poster's good, lineup's good, draft's good, but think about how much it costs to put on an event. And what did we always say? You can't do this without a broadcast deal. And, that event was coming up in a month and a half with no broadcast deal. I know they had been talking to some people. Pay-per-view would have been a nightmare, would have been a disaster. You can't do this without a broadcast deal. That's how you get your funds, especially off the bat. Ticket sales a little bit, but, you're an unknown commodity. And so not having that upfront money is a death knell. And so my sense of it was, they could foresee a massive financial crater developing around them. And they said, I'm out. No mas.
It's baffling because, and I think I've made this point on the Ariel Helwani show when we talked about this. If you were not ready to take a loss on this event, if you or this first series of events, you were in the business at the wrong time. You were not prepared for success. You were never going to make back the money. You said a pay-per-view would be, a disaster, a failure. Certainly, we can all agree that they would have sold no pay-per-views. The broadcast partners are not going to come in sight unseen, no content library, nothing to show, and go, we're going to hand you a lot of money. This had to be a loss. You were going to have to take a bath on this event and the subsequent 5, 6, 7 events. So if the thought process was we were going to recoup some of this, whether it be on ticket sales or pay-per-view or broadcast rights, it was sorely mistaken from the jump and probably should have never been invested in.
I mean, but it was going to be like a historic loss. The numbers that I was hearing, 7 figures.
Oh boy.
It baffled. And again, I don't blame the fighters for saying, yes, this is the greatest 401k of all time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do not blame them for saying this or for believing this. But man, I hate to say it, it just felt too good to be true from the get-go. And there were so many signs and little things, right? Like the format, the graphics, the draft. Like it's like there was nothing there to say like, oh, they've got it. Like they need to figure this out. Like if they navigate, these are smart, savvy, sharp people behind this. It just did every step of the way felt like another red flag until this one. And again, Andy Foster. And by the way, another red flag. If you're going to do this and you're going to be a fledgling upstart promotion, why do you go to the strictest commission of all time? Why would you go there? This is the type of thing that you do in like Texas or Florida or one of those commissions, Wyoming, Montana. You don't go to Andy Foster. You don't go to the gold standard who's going to like hold your hand and keep you accountable every single step of the way. That was another red flag.
I can't speak for Darren Owen or the GFL, but I imagine it was one of the same things that inflicted them in other areas, which is their fight was for legitimacy, right? Everything they did was to try to run before they walked, right? They are trying to sign all the biggest names outside the UFC. They are trying to go to the California Commission. They're trying to do all these things to establish themselves as legitimate. But the problem was they didn't even have anything to fall back on. They were not a small promotion that all of a sudden came into some money or investment or figured out a way to kind of expand and grow. They had nothing. They were starting from scratch and they were just running before they walked. But I imagine it was more of that, just having to say, hey, we're going to California because that's what the biggest promotion would do. We're signing all these big name fighters because that's what the biggest promotion would do. And unfortunately, they were not that promotion. That is just the reality of it. Maybe this will go off in June. I don't
think
wish
it does.
one way or
How
another.
could you possibly trust that it's going to? I mean, they completely set this up to the point where they were going to have an event and now it's canceled.
Well, if you were an investor, the question you have to ask yourself is, what am I investing in?
Well, also, what's the return on one event?
Yeah.
Minuscule compared to what you're paying. I mean, just looking at the names, Tony Ferguson, Dylan Dennis, Uriah Hall, Paige Van Zandt, Uriah Faber, Anthony Pettis, Chad Mendez, Derek Brunson, Sage Northcutt, Benson Henderson. Like the name just goes on and on and on. I can't even imagine what the bill is. There's no way you're going to recoup it with 500 ticket sales.
But you had to go in knowing that you were never going to recoup that. That is, if you thought you were going to recoup that, you fundamentally messed up somewhere. In the planning, in the beginning, you were never going to make money. That is not like the UFC wasn't making money in the early days. This is just how this goes. And I imagine that they had to have some sense of that, but maybe I'm giving too much credit. Maybe I'm being naive.
We could talk more about this. There's more exciting and happy things to talk about. UFC 314. Appreciate you guys having me on. Unfortunate news, but I can't wait for Fight Feast and the show today and the pound for pound. So
great.
Roll on this weekend, and I'll talk to you guys on Saturday night.
All right, Helwani, thanks for joining, brother.
Thanks.
For old times.
Yeah,
maybe slow it a little, Frank. Maybe a little more somber.
We pour out. Anyone have some liquor? Pour out some liquor for it.
A little bit.
Anything? No, not on the set. Not on the set. Don't pour any.
No, right on the company laptop.
No. Okay, fine on the laptop.
Have a good one, Ariel.
See you guys.
Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.